What's up, guys? It's everybody's favorite Unk, and I'm back with another review. Well, I don't know if I'd call this a review. That is what it says in the title of this video. But today we're kind of just going to take a closer look at the Black Panther Wakanda Forever Build-A-Figure Attuma wave. This is my first ever completed Build-A-Figure wave. I know that there's probably a plethora of videos on this wave already because it did come out last year. But as a person who doesn't collect a lot of Marvel, and especially MCU stuff, this is pretty cool, man. I finally know what it's like to have that sense of accomplishment when you finish the Build-A-Figure wave. And, you know, do I regret buying all of these figures? Well, let's find out. Now, I just want to make it clear that I'm kind of going to run through all of the figures in the wave real quickly. I'm not going to do an in-depth review of every figure. We are going to take a little bit of a closer look at the Attuma, the Build-A-Figure, because to me, that is honestly, besides maybe one or two figures in this wave, the whole point of even collecting this wave. But before we get started, I do kind of want to, make this video interactive for the viewer. So I do want to throw out a question to anybody watching this video today. Did you enjoy Black Panther Wakanda Forever? And what were your thoughts on the movie, if so, or if not? Personally, I am not a big Marvel guy, like I've always said, so I never really know how accurate a lot of stuff is close to the source material. I did grow up watching that Spider-Man animated series and X-Men animated series in the 90s, but I never read the comics or anything like that. And I actually saw the first Black Panther the day before I went to go see Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And personally, out of the two movies, I thought that the second one was a little less campy and a lot more serious and had kind of a deeper story than the first one, but I hear a lot of people say differently. And don't hate me for my opinion. That's just my opinion as a Marvel normie. But if you guys have opinions about that movie, please drop them below. I'd like to hear what people have to say. Anyway, let's get into the closer look. Now, if you want to get this Attuma Build-A-Figure for this Build-A-Figure wave, you need to purchase 6 action figures. The Black Panther, the Hatut Azure, I hope I said that right, Nakia, Okoye, Everett Ross, and the Namor. Now, here's the thing about having to purchase 6 figures just to get one. I'm sure it's been said 1 million times, it's like beating a dead horse at this point. The price point of Marvel Legends is a little outrageous these days, and it fluctuates from place to place. I'll say this, I saw this whole wave at a local comic shop for $30 a pop. I got the Black Panther for $30 because I really wanted it and I hadn't seen it in the wild. I saw the rest of the wave for $25 at Target. So that was $5 cheaper than at the premium or whatever comic book shop that gets a lot of retro carded stuff. The only figures I paid full price for were the Black Panther and the Namor, because those were the two that I wanted the most out of this set. Namor was my favorite character in the new movie. And of course you have to have a Black Panther in your collection, even if you're not a big superhero fan. He's just such an iconic and important figure in Marvel lore at this point. But the rest of the figures I did get on sale on Amazon for $16.97. I had been trying to find them in the wild on sale. I had seen a lot of people getting some of the figures for, $14, $8 on Target clearance. I didn't have any luck, so I just took my chances on Amazon and got them the rest of the wave for $16.97. So I spent just about $125 on this wave. Now, originally, you would be spending $150 at full price on this wave. Technically, I got one figure for free. I'm gonna say out the bat, if there's one figure that is not really worth much, it's the Everett Ross. I think him and Namor are demonstrably the worst figures in the wave. And we're gonna start with the worst and kind of make our way to the main event of things. So looking at Namor and Everett Ross, if you look at my very first YouTube video, I did an unboxing of Namor. It's a very terrible video. If you feel so inclined to go watch it, do, but I don't suggest it. It's not really worth it. I've said enough about the Namor. The thing that's disappointing about Namor is that the sculpt is so great on him. He looks so good. It's a very impressive looking action figure, but the articulation is pretty much non-existent. Now, that wouldn't be a big deal if the sculpt was on a level of a NECA or something like that. You know what I mean? But this is, the sculpt is not good enough to warrant the articulation being so bad. For a body that is pretty much naked, the fact that it doesn't have butterfly joints, the fact that it doesn't have the drop down, I'm sorry if I, butcher the name of the joints, but the fact that it doesn't have the drop down thigh joints or hip joints, the fact that the head is super limited, you can't tilt or really go up and down at all. The articulation is terrible. I mean, this is I mean, there's probably Super 7 figures that have better articulation than this Namor. And that's really disappointing because it looks so cool and he has such a great character design. Everett Ross, there's not really too much to say about as well. I mean, the good thing about the Everett Ross is it's a suited body, so it's very, very good for custom work. No chance in hell for that one. You're fired. But other than that, man, the Everett Ross is pretty bad. And mine was really gummy. The joints were really, really gummy. And I can't stand that when I get a new action figure. It just feels so cheap and just uninspired. It took a while to get him into the pose where he's holding his tie. You do have to fiddle with it a little bit, but his shoulders end up dropping down to do that. So that's really cool. But I mean, as far as I know, there was an Everett Ross that released with the first movie in a 2-pack. And if you have that one already, then you don't really need to get this one unless you're trying to build the Build-A-Figure wave. So demonstrably, the worst figures of the wave are these two. And yeah, they're really bad. I'm not going to give them a number score, but they're really bad. Moving on. So we have Nakia and Okoye. So for me, besides the Namor and the Black Panther, the figure I was most excited about was Okoye, because I love the actor. Well, I was a big Walking Dead fan within the first probably 6 or 7 seasons. I kind of fell off after that. But Michonne is one of my favorite characters of all time in all of, comic book or fantasy lore. I never read the Walking Dead comics, but I do just really enjoy the actor. I forget her name that plays Okoye. And also, the cool thing I was looking forward to with the Okoye was using the head for head swaps with some Action Force figures, as well as the Nakia. So these two are going to be great just for kit bashing, in my opinion. The negative thing about the Okoye to start off with is I don't understand why we can't get more soft goods with Marvel stuff. I understand that, maybe it's a cost thing, but if you look at other lines like Masters of the Universe, especially a lot of stuff Mattel does with WWE, you get a lot of soft goods for the same, if not a cheaper price point than your average Marvel Legend. So with that being said, I really think that the little skirt piece on Okoye could have benefited from that, or just being an even softer plastic. If you look at the pose she's in now, it kind of makes it difficult to stand her up when you have her knees bent, because the piece of the skirt kind of hits the ground. And in some poses that can help for support, but it doesn't really work too well. I do like the fact that the little shoulder pad parts on her shoulders, the way they have them articulated, they do move into her necklace, so it helps for range of motion in the shoulders. And the sculpt on both of the figures looks really good. Nakia, I believe, is the best bang for your buck out of the whole entire wave, because you do get a separate head sculpt, you get both different weapons, and you get the torso Build-A-Figure piece for Attuma. So you get a good spread of accessories with her for the price point, and the sculpt on Nakia is awesome, but once again, the articulation on Nakia is very disappointing. In my opinion, when you have a figure that is very slender, very slim, very petite, you should be able to put that thing in every single pose under the sun. There's no reason why the articulation on the torso of this Nakia shouldn't literally go all over the place. It's the stiffest torso I've felt in a very long time. It doesn't make any sense. She doesn't have any boobage. There's nothing getting in the way. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to bend this thing back and forth till the cows come home. It seems like with some of these MCU figures, they kind of try to lean towards the sculpt, which I'm okay with, I guess, because for the most part, they're just gonna sit on your shelf and not do too much. But if you like to dynamically pose, this set in general is not gonna be the best for it, but you can kind of fudge certain poses. So these two figures are not terrible. They're okay. They're just average, but there's just little things that I wish were better. All right, now hopping into the Black Panther and the Azure. I know that I'm probably butchering his name every single time I say it, but I know nothing about this character at all. I believe this is a comic book character. I don't remember him in either one of the movies. But I'll tell you, man, these two figures, they look pretty cool. Now, the issue with the Azure is that it's pretty much just a white piece of plastic. There's no paint on him. Maybe I'll throw a wash on him myself. And mine was very, very gummy. More gummy than the Everett Ross. Which in turn made the Build-A-Figure pieces that came with him and Everett Ross kind of gummy as well. But just really disappointed with how gummy this guy was. I was impressed with the fact that he came with guns. That's really cool. The guns aren't anything spectacular. The little machine gun or whatever he has, it looks okay. It looks pretty cool. Nothing compared to their G.I. Joe line guns, which I guess makes sense because that is a army man type of line. But still, these guns are kind of whatever. They're kind of lackluster. I think the sculpt looks okay. It's acceptable. I'm sure it's just all reuse like most Marvel Legends these days. But there's nothing really exciting to say about Attuma. I was expecting more of him. He's kind of just a boring, bland, blah figure. Another one that if you want the Build-A-Figure wave, you're gonna have to get. There's really no reason to get him other than if you want the character. I will say a positive about Attuma is that he is very kit bashable. I like the fact they added a hole in his back so that you can use some of those G.I. Joe accessories, other Marvel Legend accessories. Hell, you can even put like an Action Force backpack or vest on him, which is awesome. I'm gonna have fun doing stuff like that. And if you don't like the figure, you can always use him for fodder because he is pretty much a plain white body, which is a great canvas for making customs of all sorts. Moving over to the Black Panther, I'm sure there won't be much that I can say that people haven't already said about this figure. I love this figure. Now, similar to the Azure, just like that one, it's pretty much all plastic, no paint at all, just plain black plastic. But I've said before, and I'll say it again, when you have a character that's in a black suit, you don't need to do much. I think a good example of how you can do a little bit more to spice it up is the G.I. Joe Classified movie Snake Eyes. There was a whole lot of different black paints and stuff on him to kind of make certain parts of his suit stand out. I think with this Black Panther, it's fine that it's just black plastic. And the reason that it's fine is because they really just nailed the sculpt on this guy. I mean, obviously reuse. I think the Bucky cap mold is what they used on this one. I'm not too familiar with a lot of Marvel Legends, so don't kill me for that one. But the fun thing about this figure is the posability. I love it. You can really push the posability on this guy. The butterfly joints could have a little bit more range, but he just looks awesome. And I believe that if you need a Black Panther in your collection, especially if you need a comic book Black Panther, this is the definitive Black Panther. I would like to get the Chadwick Boseman Black Panther as well, because I am a fan of the movies. But I think that I'm good with this one for now. So not too much I can say more about the Black Panther in this wave. I think there's probably a plethora of reviews on him as well. All right, now getting to the main event, the Build-A-Figure, the Attuma. Now, I will say, another one of my favorite characters in this movie. And to be clear, when I first got my first figure out of this wave, which was the Black Panther, I had no intentions of building this Build-A-Figure wave. But I ended up picking up the Namor on a whim, and I said, you know what, I have 2 of the Build-A-Figure pieces already. Eventually, I should probably finish this wave. And when I saw all the figures on sale, as I said, I did finish the figure. The one thing I will say about this Attuma, now I don't know if this is for all Build-A-Figure figures that Marvel has put out, but it wasn't the easiest guy to get together. I think that might be due to some of the gummy joints from the Attuma and the Everett Ross. It made it a little bit difficult to pop those joints into place. I didn't use the hairdryer method at all. Maybe I should kind of use the hairdryer method to see if I can pop some of those joints in better. It does limit posability on Attuma quite a bit, which is pretty disappointing, but it's kind of to be expected when you have a figure with the sculpt and pieces on the skirt and shoulders like you do on this figure. One really big issue that I had as far as putting this Build-A-Figure together and the way all the parts kind of intertwine is in the shoulders. Now, on the shoulders of this Attuma, he has little shoulder pads for his armor, the little scaly shoulder pads. And what that does when you're trying to put this Build-A-Figure together, or even when you're trying to pose him, the peg that goes into the shoulder is just a little too short for when you turn it up to have it up in those high angle poses like he's throwing his spear or raising his hand up to bring his axe down. So when you do that, the shoulder has a tendency to pop out, which is really annoying, and it really limits dynamic posability, which is really disappointing. But other than the articulation being pretty much boo-boo on this guy, like really bad, the skirt hinders him from even, pulling his legs out to a 45-degree split. He does have double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, no butterfly joint on the shoulder, which, whatever. I'm not really too upset about that. Not as upset about that as I am with figures like Namor not having butterfly joints, or Attuma as well not having butterfly joints. But yeah, it's just really disappointing that the articulation is just so bad on this guy. The ankle swivel is very weird on him because he has those like little spikes in the front of his calf and on the top of his foot that make it really hard to stand him and pose him. And you can see on some of these shots, I have him posed on an Action Force stand, because when you put him into a lot of dynamic poses, he's just gonna fall over, and that's not fun. You never wanna come into your action figure display room and see one of your figures on the ground, or see one of your figures that have had a domino effect on the whole shelf it's on, and now they're all on the ground. So yeah, the articulation is really disappointing, but I will say the good thing about this Attuma is that the sculpt is wonderful. The sculpt is amazing, from the little necklace piece on his neck all the way down to the spikes on his toes. Everything is done very, very well. The skirt piece on his waist is awesome. I really love the incorporation of all the soft plastic on this figure. It really makes me wonder if they could have put a little bit softer plastic on the Okoye. I think that would have helped that figure tremendously. But I really do love that there is the soft plastic on this figure in almost every spot of it. Like from the legs have soft plastic on them, the skirt piece, the shoulder pieces are soft plastic, which really don't help much when you're trying to pose them, but that's there. The top of his head has the soft plastic spikes or feathers, whatever you want to call them. This is a great looking figure. The torso has the veins sculpted on it. Really awesome. I don't know if this is a new body mold, but it looks really unique amongst a lot of the other Marvel Legends, and especially the MCU figures. Another thing that is really annoying about the Attuma is that he doesn't have the calf articulation, like the swivel in the calf, which I think really would help for this figure to stay in. So although this figure does do a lot of things great as far as the paint apps go, as far as the sculpt go, which, you know, if you look at the paint apps and sculpt on the figure, it knocks anything that Marvel Legends has put out, you know, in the past couple months, in my opinion, besides some of the retro card stuff. It knocks a lot of that stuff out of the park. So it looks really, really nice. It's gonna look really good on your shelf. It's gonna be one of those attention grabbers on your shelf. People are gonna pick it up and say, what is this? Or they're gonna wanna come to your house and touch it and say, what is this? If they haven't seen the movie. The things that it does wrong are much more numerous than the things it does right. So in my opinion, overall, this Black Panther Wakanda Forever Attuma Build-A-Figure wave, it's worth it if you can get them on sale, which seems to be the case with a lot of Marvel stuff these days. Like I said, I got the whole set for $125. I wish I would have got it for around $100 or $110, but that still means that I got one figure for free, basically. If you can get these figures on sale, do it. I think it's awesome, especially if you're a fan of the movie. But if you're gonna buy them all at full price, no chance in hell, as old Vinnie Mac, Vince McMahon would say. I don't think it's worth $150 for these figures at all. But I am happy to have the Attuma Build-A-Figure. It's really cool to have that first completed Build-A-Figure down. And yeah, man, if you're a fan of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, go for it, man. So, a mixed bag, man, a very mixed bag. I'll say the Attuma is awesome looking. The Black Panther is hands down the best figure out of the set. I really love the Okoye. The Namor and the Hatut are very, very disappointing. They could have been great figures. There's so many little things they could have done to make them better, but they're very disappointing. The Everett Ross is trash. Use it for fodder. So yeah, man, I'm just gonna give the whole entire set a grade. As a whole, I'm gonna say that this entire wave, the Black Panther Wakanda Forever Build-A-Figure wave, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give it a solid 6 out of 10. It's passable. It's above average. If 5 is average, it's above average. There are some things that it does really well, and there are other things that it does terribly. And I think when you have figures like, you know, all of your Spider-Man figures, or you have some of that, you know, retro carded X-Men stuff that's coming out right now that has great articulation, great sculpt, beautiful paint. There's no reason that you can't just do that to these other figures that you're charging the same price for. But anyway, what did you guys think of this wave? I'd really like to know what you guys think in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe and throw that notification bell on so you don't miss every time I drop a video. I really appreciate all of the love and support so far. The community has been awesome, and I look forward to putting out more content. But until next time, peace.